Good evening, students. Today we are going to discuss about a new and interesting concept, BCG matrix in strategic management. The expansion of BCG is Boston Consulting Group matrix. It is also called as or known as growth share matrix. It's what we say it is a portfolio planning model. It is a portfolio planning model for whatever may be the organization you just carry out. This model have been practiced by those people irrespective of their nature of business, and it have been widely accepted and used model over the past 50 years. Right, it have been developed by Bruce Henderson of the Boston Consulting Group. The actual year of development is 1968. So for the past 50 years, it have been ruling the world. It is based on the observation that a company's business units can be classified into four categories. These four categories are called as quadrants. We say it as in Boston Consulting Groups, and it have a axis by which a company can be judged whether they are potentially good enough or not in the market. The x-axis have been related to relative market share, and the y-axis is based upon market growth rate. So based upon these two axes, these four quadrants have been depicted by BCG, and then the company can judge in which quadrant they fall and what are the implications they have to it shows, what are the managerial implications it shows, and what are the decisions have to be taken, maybe explained by BCG matrix. So one by one we will discuss about these four quadrants. Right, first we will start with this quadrant, cash cows. Right, you have a clear-cut idea about these two axes, that is market growth rate, right? Market growth rate and market relative market share. This says that as I said in each and every class of strategic management, whenever you sit in my class, you imagine yourself that you are running an organization for the past 5 to 10 years. So you are marketing, you are manufacturing a product, and you are marketing in domestic as well as in the national market. That's the mentality you should have in my class, that is especially in strategic management. So here for your product, the market share, relative market share, what it occupies in the current market, this what in the x-axis. But whereas this for your present product, what is the market growth in future? So these two axes, based upon these two axes, we are going to discuss about the quadrants. So the first quadrant we are going to take is cash cows. Here it have been clearly understood that in this matrix, if a company falls into this matrix, the terminology given by BCG is cash cows. So what it says? Actually, when your company falls in this quadrant, that is when your market rate is low, market growth rate is low, but whereas your market share is high. So this is what it says. Your market share is high, but whereas your market growth rate is low. So if your company falls into this quadrant, the implication is you have to harvest. That means your product have a good market share relatively in the market, but it doesn't have a future. It is low, but it doesn't have a future. So automatically what you have to do? You have to go for an implication of harvesting cash cows. So harvest as much as possible as you can, because your product doesn't have a growth. Since you have a good market share, you just make it money. Right? We will move on to the next quadrant, this question marks. Right here, the market growth rate is high. The market growth rate is high, but whereas the market share is low, relative market share is low. So when your company falls into this quadrant, what you have to do? It's a very big question mark in front of you as a businessman. what you have to do is you have to hold your strategies and your plans. You have to take a cautionary break, you have to hold, and then you have to try to make it step by step. So that what it's a cautioning strategy or a quadrant what to do. That's the another implications of BCG matrix. So when your product have a less market share, but that product have a very good market growth, what you have to do, you have to hold and you have to rebuild a new strategy in order to increase your market share. So that what the implications as suggested by BCG matrix. And now we will move on to this quadrant. It is Dock's quadrant. This quadrant, it's very easy to understand because both the relative market share is also low and the market growth rate is also low. So your company is in a position, a drastic position where you doesn't have a good market share in the market, as well as your market growth in future is also very low. So what you have to do, you are in a position like Dock's. What you have to do, you have to either divest or you have to liquidate your business. So this what the managerial implications as suggested by BCG matrix. So if your company falls into this quadrant, particular quadrant, Dock's quadrant, where you doesn't have a good market share as well as the market growth rate, you have to do either a divestment or you have to liquidate all your unprofitable running units, and you have to sell your company. And with that investment, with that returns, you're going to do, or whether you are going to start a new business, that's up to you. This what this quadrant suggests. And we will move on to the final quadrant, that is stars. Here, by seeing itself, you can understand that both market share is also high and market growth is also high. So if your company fell into this particular quadrant, it have been implicated that you are in a number 1 or number 2 position. We say it as in marketing, market leader or market follower, or generally we can call it as a top 10 profitable business. So your market share is also high. At the same time, you have a wonderful market growth rate for your product too. So in this condition, you have been termed as stars. So what are the managerial implications as suggested by BCG matrix is, when your company falls into this quadrant, what you do, you have to build your positioning, because it is very difficult to reach this position. At the same time, it is very much difficult to sustain in this position because of competition. There will be heavy competition. So what you have to do, being a businessman, if you have achieved a star position, you have to concentrate more on building your competitive advantage. You should be a first mover if a new technology enters into the market, so that you will be the first person to enter into a new market. You have to expand your business, you have to come with new products. Likewise, you have to sustain yourself to maintain your highermost position in the market. So this is the explanation of BCG matrix. So by the I will just make it as a nutshell what the BCG matrix suggests us. We call it as a managerial implications. So being a strategist, what you have to do, right? If your company fail in this quadrant, cash cows, you have to harvest. When your company fail in this quadrant, question mark, you have to hold. When your company or a product fail in this quadrant, dogs, you have to divest or liquidate. Or when your company fail in this quadrant, stars, you have to build. This is what the managerial implications of BCG matrix. I hope it have been clearly understood by you. If you have any questions, you can post. Thank you.